Welcome to Bottom Line Sports Talk. I'm George Abraham. You guys know my partner, Albert Campman. From time to time now, we do some specials. We've done them on everything from Ohio's greatest athletes, the best scorers in Ohio. We've done a little bit of everything over the years. We've done the best rivalries. But something that has come up in doing those shows, I think, is something that we want to take a look at today. Want to look at the greatest upsets. Now remember, you guys out there, you surely could find one you don't agree with, one you have that's better. Absolutely, feel free. But we're going to talk about, in our mind, the greatest upsets, and we're going to give you some perspective.
When you're looking at it, please understand that we're not talking high school. No. I know your team has done some great things.
Like Butler beat Newcastle, I'd have it up at the top, but I don't think anybody else would you?
So don't put those in there.
We're college pros.
But as you were in your mind watching right now, think of your three. And see if your three matches what we have. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling that they will, if you dig in deep.
Take a look. Maybe get the old Google and check it out.
But we have our own in an order, in no special order. Excuse me. We just yell them out, and they're not number one. Like this is number one or number six. They just go, and we just name the upsets we come up with. And I hope you enjoy the show.
Yeah, let's start with Villanova, Georgetown. When people look back at that, you and I being basketball fanatics, we know the first two games, we're not, see, everybody thinks the Giant got beat by David, and he did, but that was no slop team out there.
No, but they had Patrick Ewing, who was the most dominating player in that era.
Oh,
And Georgetown was the hated team, the team that everybody looked at.
John Thompson had the villain, and I think he wore it well.
And wanted to beat that. Everybody wanted to beat them. And remember this, there was no shot clock. And with the shot clock today, that game's a 25-point game.
Say it again, because you guys don't understand. There were games in the 20s, 30s. There were way worse, but I'm just giving you for instance.
Yeah, in this game, Villanova ended up shooting, you can look it up, close to between 75 and 80% for the game. They didn't shoot the ball for a minute and a half on the clock. Georgetown could not pressure them because Villanova had three excellent players on the perimeter.
Two of those McLeans were good guards.
Yes.
And didn't that Jensen kid
came off that game. He went off that game.
He had a huge game, didn't he?
Yes, because he hit every open jumper.
I remember that.
So Villanova, Georgetown, that game, the pace was everything. And that
could happen today.
That could not happen today.
Because 35 seconds.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
That clock's on. You can't keep the score in the 40s and in the 50s. And Georgetown was having trouble with man-to-man, so they went a lot of zone. They played some zone, so that really added more to the pace. That Villanova worked the ball around and waited. And they had a coach named Rollie Massimino that the fans adored, and John Thompson, who was one of my dad's favorite coaches, they hated him. And so now the whole country was rooting for one team. And so that's why also became one of the biggest upsets of all time.
And
Villanova.
There are pictures of him after the game. His hair is all rumpled. His suit's all, he's hugging her. Jay Wright was on that staff, I believe.
Yes, he was.
You know who had a problem with, you talking about Rollie for a little bit. It was interesting. Tom Brenneman, who seemed like he got along with everybody, was from Vermont. I don't know if he was where he was or what was going, but somehow he had to play Rollie. And there was something there, and they had a mutual friend, and those guys did not get along. Rollie had some enemies.
Interesting.
But yet at the same time, when he retired, it was old, lovable Grandpa
right.
Rollie.
Well, he ended up at Cleveland State. You guys saw him at Cleveland State coaching.
Yeah.
And then
did he go to Vegas?
He went, and he also ended up in a Division III or small Division II school in Florida.
Yeah, that's what it was.
In Florida.
I think it was Jay Wright. He said, open up with us. And first of all, that game would be at Villanova.
Right.
Normally, But no, he did. These old timers sometimes they had trouble giving it up.
Yeah, no question about it. But that game, look that up, Villanova, Georgetown. That game is a definite keeper for the upsets.
And his name is synonymous with strategic basketball, coaching them up, so to speak. Almost everything today's game isn't. The shot clock, the one and done.
No, you can't even imagine. But yeah, there was seniors playing in that game. A lot of seniors and juniors.
Jensen was like 22
Yeah,
years
old
old.
timers are playing in that game, and when you play, you young kids, all you have to do is play a pickup game with a 24-year-older. You know,
You see how that works out.
the physical play and the knowledge of the game is so different.
Hey, this is a funny one. I remember it. These guys used to come to the Altoona tournament. They had these open, you know,
Tournaments.
the seniors, like where the guys are out of college, 23, 24.
geez.
And I'd go, and these two guys were bald, see? And when I'm 11 or 12, I think they're 50 because they're bald.
Right.
These Merciac brothers from Gallitzin. Penn Cambria, you know.
Did they fire?
They both play for St. Francis. Now, you know, you don't go from
Right.
Gallitzin to St. Francis.
Right.
You might travel through, but you ain't playing.
Right.
Well, these guys both. And I'm looking, I'm
So
thinking,
people were
boy,
laughing until they started
boy, these
playing.
till the game started. You know, Richie and Ronnie Allen, guys like
Yes.
that.
Right by them.
Like they weren't even there. Pulling up from behind the key. There was
Yes.
no 3-ball.
Right. So, but they still hit every shot. Yeah, no question.
No, see, yeah, these
And they also
boys-
knew how to use their body, and they know how to get in the position to hurt. They hit you on the arm without the referee seeing it.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you're playing as an adult, you know all the tricks.
Oh, all the tricks.
Oh yes.
All right, our next upset, NC State. I remember watching the game. Let's set that game up because I saw something this last tennis tournament reminded me. Talking about the semifinals is the championship.
Right.
And the semis were Houston and Louisville.
Can't beat it.
And the guy's like, this, I feel sorry, Monday night. This poor NC State, poor Jim Valvano probably shouldn't have gotten in the tournament. Had to win.
Oh, my.
Won one game. I'm up at 1:30 in the morning watching him. He's fouling Pepperdine on purpose.
Yes.
Trading 3 for 2. People thought he's crazy.
Man, they kept
He
missing.
wins. They keep winning, survive and advance.
Yes. And that's why they played all the way through. So that game between Louisville and Houston was considered one of the greatest games played by an individual
And
team.
you had to see, look him up.
Yeah, Houston was dunking the ball
Hakeem,
every which way. And Drexler.
Drexler.
Yeah, right down the line. Just dunking that basketball. And everybody's saying there's no chance. And
I felt sorry for
And
him.
what Valvano did was, he was always a master motivator.
Absolutely.
He told everybody in the audience, I know we have no chance.
He said,
I know. We shouldn't even show it. And he's telling his team,
We got him.
we got him where we want him. We're gonna play just like we want. We're gonna play fast. And then they jump on him early. NC State jumped on him early right off the bat. Houston came back and took the lead. I think, it's over.
Here we
but,
go.
But NC State, and then they get the last possession, and they almost threw it away 4 times.
The guy at the top of the one, they're playing 1-3-1 zone.
Yes,
The guy on top of the 1-3-1 was Benny Anders.
it was. That's it.
He missed this ball, people, by this
Oh yeah,
much.
they still show it 1,000
And
times.
they shoot an air ball. All
Think
right.
that's all you
Moop. Lorenzo Charles.
Yes.
I know you've seen the picture.
Many times,
He
yeah.
comes out of nowhere and dunk slabs that bad boy with 2 hands, and Valvano's running looking for someone to hug. It's a classic
Yes.
picture. He said he wanted to hug someone, no one wanted to hug him.
That was great. It's one of the all-time greats. They made a 30-on-30 about it. It makes you cry because how
Yeah, 'cause he's dead.
Valvano died of that cancer, you know.
Yeah.
And the ESPYs is now part of his legend. But he had practiced cutting the nets down
Yeah.
ahead of time, and the player would say,
that mental work.
"What's he doing?" He said, "Oh, I'm going to show you exactly how we're going to do it when we
Yeah.
win it."
Hey, let me ask you, talk about him. Do you remember that ESPY, you know, the famous speech? They still
I remember.
use it today. But do you remember Krzyzewski?
Oh, yeah, helping him
and
up.
Dick Vitalis has to stick his nose in, of course. And they literally, like, pulled him up to the podium.
They didn't think he could make it that
No,
day.
and then the best part is in Italian, the guy's telling him
Oh, yes.
30 seconds. The guy's going 30. He's going 30 seconds. He said, I got things all over my body. He
Yes.
said, and he used Italian
No,
swear
yeah,
word.
he
He
did.
said, this guy's telling me 30 seconds. He said, basically, I'm going to die soon, and I'm
Right.
not worried about the.
Not worried
It
about
was
30
classic.
seconds.
And there were people crying in the
Oh,
audience.
no,
I remember
it was-
Joe Theismann and just different, you know. They
Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was classy. So he was known for 2 things. He was known for winning this upset over Houston, and then secondly, getting on that stage, and you say, you know, there are 3 things you do every day. You got to cry.
Yeah.
You got to laugh, and you got to think.
Yeah.
And
You do that every day.
Every day you have a solid
Hey, real
life.
quick, the funniest line of his ever. He's 22 years old. He's telling the story later. He's coaching the freshmen at Rutgers. And he's a big Green Bay Packer fan. So he says, I'm going to get these guys where I want them. I know Coach Lombardi doesn't come in the locker room to the last second. He said, I'm going to do the same thing. And Lombardi says about God, your family, and the Green Bay Packers. These are the three things. He says, I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to say, God, your family, and Rutgers basketball. So he said, it's time. Kids are ready to go. They're fidgeting. Right. He's not much older than the kids, right. He says. So he comes in, and first of all, he can't get the door open. So he gets in there. He goes, there's three things we're going to do. God, your family, and Green Bay Packers. And the place went nuts. I mean, he had this self-deprecating sense of humor that was second to none.
Oh, he did. I remember when I went to see one of my first clinics, he said, for you guys out there who suffer with your parents, I'm going to tell you, the best job there is, go take over the prison team.
Yes.
You never have any problems with the parents. Yeah. The place went nuts.
It's like George Jr. It was the greatest 2 years of my life. I never talked to anybody one time. Not once. Not once. Hey, our next one, Appalachian. I remember this game, and you're looking, you're thinking, what are they playing Appalachian for? Well, today you would look, first of all, they're D1 today.
Yeah, don't go now.
Don't go by now. No. This is like Slippery Rock playing.
Yes. Yeah. They were 1AA. And they're playing one of the top teams in the country. They're playing Michigan, and so it's completely different Appalachian State today. If people watching this show, you won't have to look it up and see.
In 07, yes. And they were number 5 Michigan. They weren't number 35.
No, they're top 5 in the country.
Didn't they go that year in a bowl?
Yeah, probably had to.
I think, now listen, I'm going to put my thinking cap on. I'm thinking it was Alabama or Florida.
They played them in the bowl game.
Beat them.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. So here's Appalachian State. And they have to do everything right. And now Michigan thinks they finally got them in place.
They got them.
They're going to pull them out. They're going to kick a field goal.
Field goal and everyone say, oh, yes. They
nice try, Appalachian State.
Yeah, go back home.
But instead, Appalachian State blocks the field goal. They run around like maniacs. And they're the first ever 1AA team to be the top-ranked team.
Ever.
Ever. It never happened before.
See, they're usually getting $1 million, getting on the bus and going home.
Yes, at 43-0 halftime.
Thanks.
43-0 halftime. That's what you're used to.
Like when YSU beat Pitt one year.
That was a great win.
And Mountain play Michigan State this year.
Mm-hmm. So that's
all it takes.
So we do know that in today's world, it's a little different. It's different. But at that time in 2007. It never even thought about it.
Let's talk about it.
The game was on TV.
It would have been harder out. Don't you agree? Today, the talent's more evenly distributed with the 85.
Yeah, 85 scholarships made it that way, right?
Back then, that wasn't happening.
Never. Like you said,
it never happened.
It's the first. We made our list because it's the first time ever. It never happened before. It had to be on there, no question about it.
Now, here's one that pro basketball-wise, this goes into Doc Rivers territory. The shame. The Denver Nuggets are playing the Supersonics in Seattle, by the way.
This is back in 1994.
Yeah. Only once has the 8 seed defeated the 1. See, this isn't like your idea of college where you say, well, Villanova got beat. Yeah, Virginia. Yeah, 1 game. These are series.
Yeah, at that time, there had never been an 18 beat a 1. And I'll have to look it up and see if there's one since. But I know then, there was never close to happening. And here comes Denver against Seattle, and they take them out. They take them out again. The network,
3 out of 5 that weren't taken.
Yes,
that's the only difference.
And the networks were looking, thinking, well, this can't happen because we want Seattle. No, they've won the league. They're the top team.
Freddie Brown.
They're supposed to win this thing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Denver ends up upsetting them. And George made a great point for you people to understand. How could that make the list? If it was a single game,
bad night.
They beat them in a series. So they had to play good back-to-back games.
Now,
you can't do that.
This team had 2 great players there. They had Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. That was Chris Jackson.
Right.
I called him one night. I said, there's this dude playing for LSU. I said, I've been watching a long time. And they ran him out of the because he wouldn't stand for Star Spangled Banner. He had Tourette syndrome. So
he had that Tourette so
already
bad.
had some issues.
Yeah.
And then second, Dikembe, no.
Right. You see commercials with him.
Yeah, he's still doing that figure wave.
So the team was decent.
Was it.
So they were decent.
No, but
we're not saying they were
8-1.
Yeah, they were a decent team. They weren't, you had 2 good players on that team, right? But Chris Jackson was a sensational point guard. I mean, at LSU, he'd take over the game one-on-one and play. And Mutombo was a really great defender at the rim. He was not a great offensive player, but he would block the shots.
He talked like the Cookie Monster. No, no, no.
Yes. So that happened in 1994. Look that one up, and you'll be surprised at how good Seattle was.
Yeah. It's just incredible when you think about it, because as we said, one game we get.
Right.
You know, Virginia loses, and we say, okay, Villanova loses, but not the best 3 out of 5.
Right.
The Miracle Mets in '69. I remember I was thinking about this. How did that happen? They had never finished above 81.
Yeah, they never won anything. They came in the league, I think, in '62. They were the laughing stock of the league. They had lost 100 games in 5 of their first 7 seasons. Think of that. Losing 100
In that
games.
year, didn't they start like 11?
They didn't start good.
Yeah, they started 18-23.
Yeah, somebody who was a Met fan that year got rich because they were 101 to win the World Series. Not to get to the World Series.
To win it.
To win the World Series. And once they got there,
well, let's remember that was first year of the ALCS.
Yeah, their pitcher
They beat the Braves first, right?
Yeah, they did. And they got
People thought, they're not beating the Braves. They can't beat the Braves.
Yeah, the Mets won 11 straight games, end up winning 100 games. So instead of losing 100 games, they won 100 games, beat the Braves, as George said, and then they're playing the mighty Orioles.
No chance.
Yeah, you're not beating them. Once again,
No chance.
it's that 7-game series again. They didn't just take them out. They took them out 4-1. The 1969
Remember the
Mets,
catches.
The miracle, Sabota.
Was it Sabota or
AG,
Craig?
yep,
I mean,
right.
play after play, people were like, they called them the Amazons. And
Yeah, they
then
did.
they'd gone on.
Yeah, it was first of all, it happened in New York. And for anybody who follows baseball,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
at that time newspapers were in the
They had
morning.
8 of them, man.
Yeah, in the afternoon.
They had 8
in
newspapers.
the evening.
Yeah, probably
The newspapers dominated the scene, and everyone was the Amazing Mets, and the place was crazy. If you went to a game, it's loud now. That in New York City at that time, it was wild. So what a for baseball, it was just tremendous to see the Amazing Mets do that to Baltimore. It was at that time George and I were in our prime. We saw that with our own eyes. It was tremendous. And we have a horse race here that's amazing. I just saw this. I just read about it yesterday.
Yeah.
Not knowing.
That would have got by me. I know Man of War is one of the greatest.
But I'm talking about what happened was, George.
Oh, the match race.
What happened was a young man wrote a story that I didn't realize it was going to hit our top list. And I'm reading the story, and he writes, his dad had pictures all over the wall, of Man of War.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean he said this is the greatest animal that has ever graced this earth.
And Secretary came along
Well,
later.
yeah,
but
way later,
still,
yes.
that doesn't change his place in history.
Yeah, so he's thinking, he's telling his son, when I die, this is you're going to have this because it's going to be the greatest animal ever on this earth, Man of War. And the guy writes said, sure enough, after my dad tells me that, this happened in 1919, by the way. Doesn't Man of War get upset?
By whom?
By upset.
Where's his name was upset?
How about that? He gets beat. No one thought there was no chance for him to ever lose.
No chance.
That ended up being his only loss ever, which ruined his terrific career. He's still considered the second best racer, him and Citation tied behind Secretariat. But he made our list because he was beating people length of the track, length all the way down the backstretch.
Like when they're not in the picture. That's
Yes.
the kind of race I like to watch.
Yes.
When my horse is out there and you can't see the others.
We've been there.
We've been the other way.
Yeah, we have.
More
Oh, no.
often.
Remember that
We're
one time?
we're experts at the horses, believe me.
How about we were at Ladbroke one day, and
No.
and my friend comes in and sits down with us, and we're eating strawberry shortcake, both of us just eating away, and he says, "Do you have anybody in this race?" I said, "Yep." He said, "We
got tickets this time.
I said, "We got $100 a piece on the 5-horse."
Kept right on eating, buddy. No.
And he finally said, he's watching the screen, a TV screen. Yeah. I don't see the 5-horse. And I'm saying to George, who do you like the next race? He
Just
said
like
it never made a difference.
No.
Your horse never
ran.
made the screen. I'll always remember that.
He never ran. And he couldn't believe we blew, that was
Just blew $100
No.
without blinking an eye,
No.
and we're going to the next race.
like it was nothing. Like, that's when I quit doing it. When I quit doing it. When I went there, and I had so many tracks, I didn't know who I had at which track, then I quit.
Think about that.
I've retired.
Tell them the story that my famous radio story there is.
Which
There was two guys.
Oh, no, these two guys, real quick, they
This
went
is the
to
best.
the track.
This is worth the
The-
price.
the-
This show, you can release everything else.
These
This is the funniest story
old-timers,
ever.
They would get in it, and they're arguing back and forth. They're not winning. If you go there long enough, nobody's winning. But that's another story. So these guys, so when they get up the bet, I would change their channel on their TV, like with the remote worked in one next door.
So it changed.
So the guy would get up and he'd come back. He's already mad because he's losing.
Right.
You changed it. I know, change. You changed. They're cussing at each other. My buddy.
They're Italian guys.
And my buddy's sitting there.
You're changing the channel.
He's sitting there like this. My buddy's just ready to start crying. So about 3 different times, they had no idea. They're getting up, coming back. I know change. You change. He said, I know change. You change. Then they were cussing. And
That's one of the classic stories.
yeah, because
Because not only are they losing,
yeah.
but they're taking it out on each other.
Taking out on each other. Well, that's like, this one buddy of ours, his uncle, he was at the track and he thought he lost because his brother touched his form. He goes, don't touch that. He goes,
That's what he blamed it on?
No, he's driving home and he goes,
Oh, sugar.
he's driving home and he said, you know why I lost it? He said, your uncle was touching me. This is the same guy. He was a barber in
my.
Farrell. They would drive by, they honk the horn, they go, we're late for the daily double. He'd stop the guy's haircut and say, come on back tomorrow, buddy, I'll finish it.
He was not
Half a head, no, half a haircut, half a haircut. Now you tell me.
Come back tomorrow. I'll
That's
finish
what
it.
horse racing will do to you. And we got 4 more to finish here. Tyson, I remember that night. It's over in Japan. It's late at night. I'm watching.
It's amazing.
35-1, Buster Douglas.
Yes.
And he had just gotten issues or broken up with his wife, that Robin Givens. They had just made a complete fool out of the poor man.
Yep.
And he's over there, and they're in there in the ring, and he's got these guys in his corner. They're not qualified.
Right.
So he gets a bruise early, and they go to get the end swell. That's that metal thing they keep in the ice bucket.
Put it on you.
And they press the lump out because it's ice cold. It's metal. This dude doesn't have one. He's using a latex glove with ice in it to try to.
Think about
I
that.
mean, it just. But what it did, it was symbolic of how not ready
Added more to it.
they were for this fight. In other words, it wouldn't be important they're not having an end swell
Right.
if it didn't basically
It was two tremendous
show
heavyweight fighters. Yeah.
how he didn't take it seriously.
Nobody took it
They
serious.
weren't ready.
The announcers are still
I remember
today.
35-1, and the very end of the fight, there's a picture. Tyson's crawling on the
Buster.
ground, trying to put the mouthpiece
Right.
in his mouth. It falls out. He can't get up.
Yeah, that occurred on February 10th, 1990. If you want to ever go look back and see it, if you're a boxing fan, you remember it. I know you do. And you might as well watch it again. It's all over the place. But it was late, and Buster Douglas, they always said he had no heart. They couldn't. There's no chance they could stand in the ring with Tyson. George,
Yeah.
he stood that night.
So that night. And I'm going to tell you what, there's something to watch on it. You young guys that maybe didn't see it, or do me a favor, go back, YouTube it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
See how close to Buster not getting up at 10 earlier.
Another round.
Yes. I remember thinking, man, he got a break.
Can he get up? Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
but they did.
The bell
We
sounded
got a few
out.
left. We got about 5 minutes. Super Bowl III, Joe Namath. I'm a kid. I say to my father, what do you think? He goes, he goes like that. Playing the Colts, 17-point underdogs. The Colts were like the Packers or Steelers.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it was the same year. That's what's interesting. It was 1969. So we got the Mets, and
Jets.
we got the Jets.
Mets and Jets.
Yeah, and the Colts have John Unitas. That's all you have to look him up. He's considered one of the
John Mackey, Tom Maddie.
10 greatest quarterbacks
Absolutely.
of all time.
Yeah.
But what made it so great, his name is from local, right across the border of Beer Falls.
Yeah.
And they asked him a casual question, see, and he gives one of those casual answers. He don't like. I'm reading his book right now,
Yeah.
by the way. And he said, I just happen to. They asked me, so I just answered. and said,
we can win.
We can win. I can guarantee you we can win this.
Guarantee it.
That
Yeah.
word became famous
Yeah,
with him.
like he was guaranteed to
Yes.
win, and he really
No,
wasn't
he was just
originally.
saying. He was just saying. I
Yeah.
guarantee we can win this.
But I'll
game.
tell you what, the funny part is They
ran
beat
the
them
ball.
up and ran the ball.
They did. They
That's
beat them on,
now, right?
They beat them on the run.
Hey,
Yep.
2 more to get in our remaining minutes.
This one is
Oh,
close by.
the Giants
just
upset.
a couple years ago.
Oh, my
yes,
gosh,
you know.
yeah. Tom Brady, greatest team ever, no?
Yes, undefeated.
Undefeated? Yeah.
Undefeated.
Didn't
They're
make
talking about, okay, Miami Dolphins are crying their eyes out because
They're going to break the record, and it's now 16 games instead of 14-game season.
yeah, and so everybody talks about the Mannings. Well, it wasn't Peyton Manning that beat them. It was Eli Manning that beat them. And, Mike Strahan at that time was not near the player he was before. He still talked a good game, but they beat Brady. And you just saw Brady win another
Brady,
title.
Belichick, and Randy Moss.
Yes.
They did things that people didn't think were possible.
Scoring records.
And they had played the last week of the season.
Yeah, Giants knew that from that point.
And the Giants
Play them
hung in
tough.
just enough.
Yes, they did.
And remember, here we are, 30 years, 20 years later.
Right.
What's still the secret to Brady getting
Pressure up the middle. Yeah.
Seahorn,
Giants put pressure on him.
Umenyiora.
They put pressure on him.
Exactly.
And with 4 guys. They didn't have to blitz very often.
No. No. My quarterback, my old player, he is an investment counselor today. He has the guy who caught the ball on his helmet. Oh yeah, Burris caught. He caught.
Oh no, he caught the winning touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't catch. Yeah.
Hey, we got 2 minutes left, real quick.
Well,
this one
you
here,
can predict
the
this one.
Miracle on Ice. You
Yeah,
knew it.
yeah.
I remember. It's one of those like the Kennedy assassination,
Know where you're at, huh?
9/11.
Know where you're at.
I was there. I was scouting at W&J University.
Interesting.
And this is how little the event was at the time. It was on tape delay.
Yes, it was.
It was not on live.
Think about today's world.
Soviets had scrimmaged all these NHL teams and just took names.
And they had already scrimmaged this team.
And there are these kids.
Embarrassed them.
No chance.
Yeah, so here's USA just trying to move on. And Herb Brooks makes his name.
Yep.
The movie's tremendous. You want to see
Yeah,
that
Miracle
movie.
on Ice.
Yeah. And they move on in pool play. It was called pool play then. And they have to meet the Russians in the semifinals.
Not the finals.
Not the finals. And with Russia leading 2-1, and don't they score a goal at the end of the first quarter, first period?
Yeah, 2-2.
And Tretiak, who's considered the best goalie in the world,
Yeah.
doesn't the Russian coach pull him? It's the ultimate pull of all time.
Yeah.
And doesn't the United States go on to win the game?
Mike Eruzione
Yep.
was the captain. Some of these guys went on to start him.
In the
Most
NFL.
did not.
Right.
In the NHL, most did not. But it was definitely the big deal. But what people don't talk about
Right.
today, they still had to win another game against Finland to win the gold.
And 4-2 later.
And Herb Brooks told him, he said, you'll never live this down if you don't.
Yeah, if you beat Russia, it's not going to pay off. But you
No,
don't beat Finland.
you got to win this one.
And they did it. So that's considered. All the rest of them we can put in line, but nothing matches the Miracle on Ice.
Attaboy. Thanks again for watching Bottom Line Sports Talk. See you next week.